Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we're using Lawn Fawn Sweet Strawberry, as well as How You Bend Conversation Hearts, which is not shown here. I am going to use a scrap sheet of paper and stamp down my strawberries. I have chapters linked so that you can skip through whatever you don't wish to watch or you need to come back and look at another project. I am showing you how I colored these strawberries. I colored many more off screen. But the reason I'm showing you this is I want to show you how I colored them, how I embellished them to make them look more realistic. I do like to use my Copics. They're my favorite marker to use. I'm not the best at it, but I do like to add a little bit of shading. I have found that making these 5 different projects was a lot of fun. And it's just a great way to stretch your supplies and get different looks, especially if you love to give different cards to different people. This will give you a lot of options. When I was making this, all I could think was, I wish I had a box of strawberries dipped in chocolate. I wish it was strawberry season here so I could just make them myself. Now I want to stamp the little seeds onto the strawberries, and I wanted to do that after coloring so that they were more crisp looking on the strawberries. And I just put it back in my MISTI to do this. I will cut these apart and I will use glossy accents to put down on the strawberries and set them to the side. This will make the chocolate look more realistic. And then, because there is a little stamp in the set to create your own sprinkles, I decided to get out sprinkles from Trinity Stamps and add it to the glossy accent so it will dry to decorate the strawberries. Now our next project will be the shaker card. I have 2 hearts here that I am putting down on my Anna Griffith magnet mat. However, if you don't have a magnet, you could use Post-it note tape or washi tape to hold them together. And I will run this through the die cut machine. When it comes out, the reason we stack those 2 hearts together is it gives me the top of my shaker and then the inside piece that I will use later in the project. If you've watched this channel, you know I love 6x6 paper. I am going to put this heart, the large one, in the corner and cut this out through the die cutting machine, saving the rest of the paper. This cuts out the base of my shaker card. I like to use pattern paper for the shaker. I will cut a sheet of paper 4 inches by 5 1/4, and this will be embossed with this Swiss Art Dot embossing folder. I love the details of this embossing folder. It's very elegant and simple. Next, we will make our shaker window by using these embossable window plastics. I love these because you can emboss on them, stamp on them, and they run through the die cut machine so easily. They're a nice sturdy project. We will add Barely Art glue to the frame of our shaker. This is great because if we get any glue on the shaker card, it dries clear. And we don't have to worry about that being seen. I will take this beautiful heart made by one of my friends that does glass work to hold that down. I have cut the base that's an A2 size out of the same color as the heart that I've cut out. And I will use Barely Art glue on the de-embossed side and put that down onto the shaker card. This just gives some added interest, and this will be where I plan to place my shaker in the middle. Now that hasn't completely dried, but I want to start making my shaker. I have this 3M foam that will be cut into strips. If you have adhesive that is already cut in strips, you can use that. Whenever going around your heart, you want to make sure that you make sure every little nook and cranny is covered around that so that none of your shakers fall out. My other tip is that you will build this one more height higher. So whatever you're using around, you need to build it one more time around. You want to give depth to that shaker so those shaker pieces can move about. I do like cutting my own strips and determining my own sizes. I know that it looks messy, but the great thing is the recipient doesn't see that, and I can use this tape to manipulate it wherever I need it to be. So I do like this, and it lasts a very long time. But we want to make sure we have depth. You could also cut that frame out several times and not use foam tape to get the same type of depth. Next, we will add our shakers. I want to add a few little red hearts to the shaker card. I also am going to go through, which I should have done first. I always forget that, and just use some of that to get the adhesive off. I've added the sprinkles that I put on the berries when we colored them, and added some hearts too to the shaker. These are silver hearts just to give it some interest. And then I will put the back of the heart on. Now you could put string on this and make it an ornament if you wanted to. Or I am putting barely art glue, but I do go back and I forgot to film it, and I put double-sided adhesive on this because I forgot it is on an embossed area and it needs the double-sided adhesive. I am placing my sentiment into the die cut so I can make sure that I get it lined up properly so I can use both sentiments together and put my die cut down to run through the machine. And then I'm going to add my berries that have those same sprinkles to this, and I'm just trying to determine where I want to place that, and I'm using my barely art glue and just lightly putting that down, and I will put on my little berry. I do love how this turns out, and just add it to your card front and you have your shaker card. Also, the inside of the heart that we cut out, we will stamp Happy Valentine's Day on it. This comes from the How You Bean conversation hearts that we will be using. And I'm going to stamp this down, and I'm going to do it twice to give it a nice crisp look, and we will add that into our card. And I love that element that they find a beautiful heart inside the card when open up, and it's super quick. Now our heart and shaker heart are all complete, and I just love how they match up together. For the second card, use the How You Been Conversation Heart stamp set, and use 3 different colors to create your hearts and randomly stamp them, leaving a blank space in the middle and towards the bottom. I have decided to use Simon Says rhubarb, apple, and cranberry ink to create 3 different shadings of red on the card. And I do love how this turns out. And I love being able to have the MISTI so I can stamp it more than one time if it doesn't come out correctly. In the middle, I will put the little conversation heart pieces, just as if we had a box of conversation hearts. You could stamp this in black ink, which is what I am using, or you could use white ink to mimic more of those hearts. but I do love the Misty because I stamped that super quick. In the middle, we will put I love you very much and have that as the focal point of the card. Next, I have fussy cut out 2 strawberries. Each one of these strawberries has the little faces on them. I used one of each of the faces and have them facing each other like they are in love. From Trinity Stamps, I have these X and O's that are normally used for shaker elements, but I'm going to use these to embellish the card. I do recommend putting the glue on the paper first and then adding it to the card. Next, if you want to take your card up another notch, you could glossy accent each one of the hearts, or you could use a glitter pen to add on some sparkle to each one of the hearts, or you can leave them plain. It's all up to you. I decided to use the glitter since the glossy accent was already on the strawberries for the chocolate, and that just gives it a little bit of shine and sheen. The third card will have a blended background using the rhubarb, apple, and cranberry from Simon Says. I'm using a piece of Post-it note tape so that I can try not to get this red ink on my fingers, but I end up doing it anyway. Probably should have wore gloves. I am putting this down very quickly and we'll go back and blend the colors together. I do like to have the different shading, and I want to have a straight line at the bottom. So I have placed Post-it note tape down there so that there is a straight line at the bottom for the strawberry accents and the sentiment on the card. However, we are going to be adding a sentiment to this blended background. I will remove the Post-it note tape. I did get some ink on my fingers, and I'm using a mono adhesive eraser to get some of that ink away, as well as some of the ink that was near that line. I will place the I love you very much into the Misty and stamp that as the main sentiment on the card. Next, using the cranberry ink, I have used the Happy Valentine's Day from the Conversation Heart set, and I will stagger this across the card to give some interest for Valentine's Day. And I'm going to do this in 5 stamped Happy Valentine's Day because we like to do things in odd numbers. Next, I have a stencil. I'm sorry, I don't remember where the stencil is from, but I am going to use the rhubarb and just lightly put hearts down stenciled. And then I'm going to line this up to get a few little hearts down at the bottom and then across the white part that I had taped off just to get some hearts down there. Now I have falling hearts across the card, and we will place the strawberry down using Barely Art glue down in the corner. I love how this looks and turns out, and then I will add a couple more strawberries throughout that background. And this really just pulls the card together. You have 3 strawberries, 5 of the Happy Valentine's saying, and then just 1 of the I love you so very much. Add this to a white card base, and you have your third project done, and it was so quick and easy. I hope that you have enjoyed these projects, and remember, you can add embellishments. So I decided to just add some little heart embellishments to the card, and you could add embellishments throughout your blended background too. You do you, and let me know what you plan on adding. You could also choose not to use any embellishments on your card. It's all up to you. Next, we will make a shaker tag. A Valentine shaker tag with Valentine's paper from a 6x6 paper pad. I will cut out the heart and then use this, because it's a very thin piece of paper, to cut out the remaining hearts of my tags. I will line this up and tape it together. My die cut didn't cut out that little dot, and I wanted to make sure that was lined up, and then place the heart into that window. You may have to use washi tape to hold in the heart if you don't have this magnetic background. And you will do this 5 more times and cut out 5 more hearts on the tags. Then you will save your hearts, and you will use rhubarb ink to blend your background for your shaker. And you will adhere all those hearts together and then adhere them onto the front of your shaker and put that to the side. I have cut out another tag with that embossable window piece of acetate. I will line this up. I've put a black piece in the MISTI so you can see. I will line it up, hold it in place so I know where to stamp my sentiment with StazOn ink. I like to stamp this and stop quickly and clean off the stamp so that StazOn ink doesn't stay on it. And the great thing about the StazOn ink, though, it will hold up for this, and we will create the window to our shaker card by gluing it with Bearly Art glue. And I will line that up with the sentiment showing on the opposite side, and there you go. We have that, and we'll set it to the side to dry. Next, we are going to add our embellishments. I'm going to add the X and O's. I don't want too many because I want room for it to shake around, but I do like those X and O's. This tag could be used on a gift or maybe a box of chocolate strawberries, or even on the front of a card if you want to do that. But I like having something to go with the gifts that I give at Valentine's. We will add on one of our strawberries to the shaker for just some extra pizzazz for our tag, and we can shake away and add our twine to add it to our gift. Now the hearts that we cut out, we're going again use that same rhubarb, apple, and cranberry from Simon Says, and we're going to ink up our hearts for the background. And this is just super quick and a great way not to have to discard our hearts. And we can use our hearts in so many ways. You could use it on the project like I'm going to, which stretches our supplies even more to make another card. Or you could just use them on other projects or put them aside into your stash box. I have a stash box and a video about having a stash box so you have some things on hand. But I do love how these turn out and are just so super quick to do. We will add each one to the MISTI and get out those conversation heart pieces from that set, and we will stamp our hearts. And the great thing about the MISTI is I can put this in place and quickly stamp it and restamp it if necessary. I thought the Be Mine was super cute for the card, and I kind of wanted it to have a little theme, so it will be mine, you rock, and love you. Next, we're going to let pattern paper do the work for us. We're going to cut this down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Then we're going to take our next card stock from our 6x6 and cut that down to 4 1/4 by 3.5 so that we have a nice little border all the way around and really show off that pattern paper. We will adhere the pattern paper down to the card. Sometimes it is nice to use pattern paper and not have to make your own background. It makes making the cards quick and easy. There's less thinking that you have to do, and you can let those pattern papers just really shine on your project. I love mixing pattern papers, especially ones that come out of the same 6x6 paper pad. I think it just adds some interest, and those colors are already there and they go together very well. I want to stagger my hearts across the card. And when you do this, you will want to glue from the bottom to the top. And the reason is it's easier for the layering to go on the top of each of the hearts. I think this is a nice, simple card that you could make a lot of for your Valentines. And to add some extra interest, I will use my glitter pen again just to give the hearts a little sparkle. We all love a little sparkle on our cards. If you're not a sparkle person, let me know below. With 2 stamp sets from Lawn Fawn and die cuts, we have stretched our supply to create a shaker card, a quick simple card, a shaker tag, and 2 adorable cards. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Here's a suggestion from YouTube, and happy crafting!